What happens when a customer refuses simple instructions at a warehouse? When I worked in a warehouse years ago, customer pickups often caused serious problems. For about 6 to 8 months, warehouse staff had to deal with difficult situations because customers arrived with vehicles that were too small, came without help for heavy items, or argued about loading procedures. The warehouse team repeatedly suggested changes to management, but those ideas were mostly ignored until several bad incidents forced them to act. Eventually, management updated the sales contract rules for customer pickups. The new policy required customers to bring an appropriate vehicle and another person to help with lifting. It also made it clear that warehouse staff would not be responsible if customers ignored these instructions. A few weeks after the new policy started, our warehouse received a large shipment of stock. One item was a 3-seater recliner sofa that a customer planned to collect himself. This particular sofa had a metal bracket system that allowed the reclining sections to clip into place. Normally, the reclining parts were kept separate during transport so they would not get damaged. However, when this customer bought the sofa, he had specifically requested that it be fully assembled before it was shipped. That meant the reclining sections were already attached. When the sofa arrived, I inspected it carefully and was relieved to see it had arrived from Italy in perfect condition. I called the customer and arranged a pickup time for 4:30 p.m. I also reminded him about the new warehouse policy, asking him to bring a suitable vehicle and a second person to help lift the sofa. At 4:30 p.m., the customer arrived in a small rental truck with a friend. I greeted them and asked the customer to inspect the sofa before signing the paperwork, which was our standard process. At first, everything seemed fine while they looked it over. Then the customer noticed that the reclining sections were already clipped into the brackets. He asked why they were attached. I explained that he had requested the sofa to be assembled when he purchased it. He quickly became frustrated and asked how he was supposed to get the sofa into his house if it was fully assembled. I asked if he had a toolbox at home and told him I could show him how to remove the back section later. Before I could finish explaining, he raised his hand and said he was not going to do our job for us. I calmly explained that we could remove the sections at the warehouse, but doing so meant opening the packaging and using tools on the brackets. There was a small risk of scratching the metal or damaging the sofa, so he would need to sign paperwork allowing us to do it. Instead, the customer demanded to speak with the manager, claiming I was making the process difficult. He walked to the sales office and returned a few minutes later with the manager. He loudly complained that I was being unhelpful. I explained the situation to the manager and pointed out the possible risk of damage if we removed the parts on the loading dock. The customer insisted that the backs be removed immediately. The manager called the general manager to explain the situation. After the call, she told me the general manager wanted her to ask if I was willing to help the customer. I declined. The manager then told me I was being instructed to remove the sofa backs anyway. The customer smiled confidently while we prepared the area. My team laid down protective sheets and opened the packaging. I began carefully using a screwdriver to release the recliner clip from the bracket. While I was working, the customer suddenly stepped forward and said he would help. Without warning, he grabbed the recliner back cushion and pulled it upward with force. The recliner popped out of the bracket so violently that it struck my elbow. My hand slipped and the screwdriver went straight through the leather back of the sofa and into the seat cushion. At the same time, the force of the customer's pull snapped the bracket on the opposite side. Everyone froze. The customer stood there holding the detached cushion while the manager stared at the screwdriver stuck in the expensive sofa. I looked at the manager and asked if she wanted me to start removing the other side as well. The situation ended with a badly damaged sofa and a very unhappy general manager because the mistake had just cost the company around $10,000.